For a spontaneous video, I've decided to grab my stack of books I use for my eating ASMR, surface, the bottom of the stack. And I'm gonna go with something I've talked about, like Prisoner of War. So I'm Tanis of Seattle, and this is Wednesday, 5 August 2026 AD. And I've kind of put out like Prisoner of War for myself, military service meets prison settings musings. And I was like, I'm a woman. I'm 5 feet 7.5 inches tall. I can run faster than 5 minutes in the 1 mile run with myself as coach. I do training, I do cardiology, self-experimentation, so study of the human heart and corresponding blood system. I was like, what if I were a prisoner of war and they were to treat me like John McCain, so torture me, what might be tactics that they use? And I was like, well, because of my strength, they might use physical battery, so to speak, physical beating me up. And I was like, what's something closer to cardiology? That's like that side of the body. And there's bruising, but like in the realm of my god Hades, please help me get out. The squirrel gods of the backyard, the western gray squirrel, the squirrel gods are already trying to help me get out too, get me out early. And I was like, how about for the days and age we live in, one that's fitting, I think, is electroshock therapy, but so the medical thing I want to look up is electroshock therapy, but like battery in more than one sense. So there's batical as in physically beating something battery, and then there's a battery like, a battery for a phone, a battery for a car, a battery for a computer, that kind of thing, a battery for a camera. So let's go with electro. I was like, I'm in wherever they're torturing me, and they go, charge the battery. I'd be like, if there were behind the scenes and people like said that about my devices that I use, be like, that's a way of getting me to say no to a big deal prize. If like the behind the scenes, they track my electric device usage and they go, she's charging her battery. I'd be like, I can say no to your prize pretty easy when you talk to me like the people who tortured me did. So, that kind of thing. So they have electroconvulsive therapy, page 389. So there's electroshock, electroconvulsive. Let's go 389. And so this is going to be, I'm using for this probing. It's used for mental health care. This is the Merck Manual of Medical Information, Home Edition. And so I'm going on page 389. So it's electroconvulsive therapy is listed for treatment of mental illness, and it's a relatively short blurb. So we're reading from a written work. Quote, electroconvulsive therapy. With electroconvulsive therapy, electrodes are attached to the head and a series of electric shocks are delivered to the brain to induce seizures. This therapy has consistently been shown to be the most effective treatment for severe depression. Contrary to its portrayal in the media, electroconvulsive therapy is safe and rarely causes any serious complications. The modern use of anesthetics and muscle relaxants has greatly reduced any risk to the patient. End quote. So I read this. I'm going, okay. That's nice. Okay. Oh, and then there's the last sentence. I'm like, okay, so nothing bad's going to happen except for like something bad happens because like shocking people with electricity isn't like, at least in like movies and books, like it's supposed to get people to talk. And so I'm like, okay, let me think of this as like I'm a prisoner of war in the military, and so then what could go wrong since it says it's rare, there could be complications. Well, maybe the last sentence. I'm going to read that one again. Quote, the modern use of anesthetics and muscle relaxants has greatly reduced any risk to the patient, end quote. So I'm like, so essentially if they're giving giving me the raw electric shock, I could have something bad happen, because they're saying, well, as long as you're under an anesthetic or there's muscle relaxants, you're fine. So I'm probing the book. So essentially, that's a big, strong question. Right? So essentially, if they don't do that, it's going to hurt a lot more. They're not going to relax me before they shock me. It's almost like it's torture. Okay, so I'm like, okay. Yeah, I'm going with like, okay, but it's also like, it's comforting in its own way, right? Well, right. Well, that's good. If it's done right, it's not necessarily harmful. However, if it's just in raw form, it could be very damaging, perhaps. It mentions serious complications, rarely, but it still says serious complications. So I'm like, so essentially those would become more prevalent if the corresponding baby blanket weren't applied. It's a prisoner of war setting. Why would there be a baby blanket? So there we go. That's it. So I guess we're going to go with electroconvulsive therapy for this video. Not electroshock. They didn't. Different name. There's a lot of electro stuff, It's been around a while. So there we go. That's an attempting increasing understanding from me, Tanis of Seattle, to you this Wednesday, 5 August 2026 AD.